War, the Iraq War, two wars destined to lose, as we had predicted before they began, and they're going on now, 8 years with no end in sight and trillions lost. It's the same game. The only way we see this, it's the two-headed one-party system. It's the Washington Wrestling Federation. But unlike the World Wrestling Federation, where you know the game is rigged, but you still have your villains and heroes, the people actually think there's a difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. They play the game out in front about how they dislike each other, get together after the show, and do their dirty deals. We need a third party. We're predicting by 2012 there'll be a new party with a great force in this country. We're calling it progressive libertarian, progressive in the terms of social needs and justices, progressive in the terms of enlightenment and moving forward as greater human beings with high levels of morality, and libertarian with government getting out of life. Who are these arrogant people, these Pelosi's, these Franks, these Bonners, these McConnells, these Dodds? Who are they to stand in front of us with all their arrogance to say they know what's best for us? And that's what we're going to start seeing an end of. What's different, Eric, about these protests that we've seen now than before, particularly if you go back to the Vietnam era and the baby boomers, is the baby boomers were babies back then. You know, when you're in your teens and early 20s and some guy who's a senator looks down on you with his ring and squadron of bullies and bodyguards around him, you know, you think twice. But now the baby boomers aren't babies anymore. When a mealy-mouthed Spectre or a Joseph Joey Big Mouth Biden shoots off their trap, want to talk to me one-on-one, we can discuss this. So that's the difference now. This revolution is real. These congressmen, these senators, I don't know how any adult could look up to any of them. I can say this and I'll go on the record. They are not my leaders. They couldn't lead me across the street. They're political hacks and they're heads of parties. They could lead me nowhere. And when people stop letting them lead them around like little puppy dogs, we'll have a nation of respect and dignity, the kind that Jim Rogers said existed during the last Great Depression.
Let me ask you in closing, Gerald, because I heard you talk about this one time, but the two-class system where we would have the super rich and the poor, and that seems to be where we're heading. This idea, this chasm develops between the rich and the poor, and that always happens during tough times. But this being a depression or a very severe cycle for people to deal with, that chasm will just get wider and wider and wider. What are your thoughts on the idea of the super rich and the poor? Because are we going back? I guess here's my question for you. Are we going back to royalties and serfs?
Exactly what's happened. They are the royalties. They deserve $100 million and $1 billion bonuses. Look what this guy Schwartzman just came out from. What is it? I love the names: BlackRock, Blackstone, Blackwater. Black is perfect to put in front of their names. They're so dark and disgusting in their money gains and criminal activities. What did he get? $730 million last year. When I was a kid growing up, they used to say, my parents, may their souls rest in peace, you only could eat one steak at a time when people were happy with having what they had. And so they have become the nobility. They're in trouble. We give them money so they could get their billions of dollars in executive compensation. And they have made us indentured servants and slaves and serfs, living and in future generations, to pay off their junkie habits. So that's exactly what's going on. When you're a junkie, you don't even have that kind of a thought. You cannot be satisfied. This is a sickness. As I said, they should be pitied, but at the same time, we have to be on our alert because they're very dangerous. They will take us to war to satisfy their habit of greed. They never have enough. Who in our lifetime would have ever believed of clowns earning these kind of wages? For producing what? For making what? for good gambling, that's a reward. They're producing not a thing for this society. And as I said, it extends right through the entire system. Look what we just learned. The privileged class of the noblemen in Washington had just bought themselves $500 million worth of jet aircraft to fly around in a style that they've been accustomed to.
I want to close here, Gerald, just by asking you about gold. You nailed this right at the bottom, around $275 you recommended gold. In your mind, is the dollar going to worthlessness or worth less, much less than it is today? Or what should people be doing? Should they be buying gold on the pullbacks? What are your thoughts here?
We don't give investment advice. I'll tell you what I do. My strategies are very simple. I don't invest in companies. I don't take that risk. It's a risk. You lose, don't cry to me, folks, that you did a risk. If you bought Bank of America, Citigroup stock, whatever, when you invest, you take risk. I invest in myself. My strategies are very simple. Half my cash is in dollars and half my cash is in euros. One goes up, the other goes down. At this point of extreme volatility, I'm only interested in keeping what I have, wealth preservation. My wild card play is gold, and I'm about 80% invested in gold and have been for quite some time. And gold, to me, to answer your question, I see the dollar being worth dimes on the dollar. You can't. We all know it. Look, the only person out there in the whole world of the major nations denouncing the United States for what it's doing is Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany.
Yeah.
And why? You think they know a thing or two about printing phantom dollars out of thin air based on nothing and producing practically nothing? It was called the Weimar Republic, and they still have people alive that remember that. This country doesn't have a clue what's going on. Their minds have been deadened with Michael Jackson. Their dignity has been taken away from them by looking at American Idols, believing in presidential reality shows, and bowing at political altars and looking up to political demigods.
Gerald, if people want to follow your writings or subscribe to your various services, how do they do that?
Our website is trendsresearch.com. That's plural, trendsresearch.com. And we encourage people when they go to the site to go to our Trends Journal. Look at what it's a quarterly, but look what our top trends were for 2009. But then go back, you can see the full Trends Journal from 2008. And we wrote that in December of 2007, as we do all our trends for the upcoming year are done in December of the previous year. And you can see what we've hit and what we've missed. And the motto of the Trends Research Institute, Eric, is think for yourself. And that's what people have to do now more than ever. Think for themselves.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Gerald.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us at KingWorldNews.com. Remember to tune in next week for another great show where we will have Dr. Mark Faber, author of the Gloom, Boom, Doom Report, as well as Bob Quartermain, Chairman and CEO of Silver Standard Resources. Also remember to go to our Gold Plus page for exclusive weekly interviews with Ted Butler and Gatta.